Welcome to the Luminex Group. Today we're going to talk about systems thinking, seeing your church as an entire system, seeing the forest for the trees, understanding how everything is interconnected is the key to good leadership in a church. Join us. Systems thinking is really an important discipline for church leaders because a church is a social system. What we need to know is that leaders who think in systems have all kinds of advantages in their leadership. They see the bigger picture. They don't just look at one tiny area. Systems thinking allows us to zoom out and look at the problems by the context that they're in so we can understand how all of the components interact and what the real problem might be. Usually we're just treating symptoms. Seeing systems means that I see everything in a systems lens. I don't jump into blaming or trying to find who's at fault for problems. It also means I don't jump straight into reorganizing or restructuring or outsourcing even. I don't look at problems and solutions per se. It means I see complexity in the situations where the problem and solution are brought out of analyzing the system from where we are now. Focusing on problems actually decreases our ability to see how everything is interrelated in the system, which explains a lot of the reasons we get stuck as churches. So we look for long-term solutions rather than quick fixes. For example, one way we do that is in the example of church addictions, which, by the way, if you want to see, we have a video available on our website that will go into more detail about systems thinking applied to church addictions. Addictions are various over-reliance on people and things in a church. Well, if we look only at the problem, we're going to think that, for example, the pastor is the problem when we are not getting enough people in the pews. Well, in fact, what has happened very often in churches is that we have become over-dependent on the pastor. And if we look at the pastor, we see him as the problem. But if we look at the church system, we realize that there are multiple causes of that problem. And the pastor is one of those that interacts with all of the others. So we may find actually in systems thinking that the cause of our problem is very distant from our thinking. So rather than trying to solve the pastor problem, which happens very often in churches, we'll just replace the pastor and that'll solve our problem. Actually, what happens is we realize that no, replacing the pastor is not at all necessary. What we need to do is change our emphasis in our discipleship, or we need to refocus on community ministry, or we need to just focus on being more welcoming of the people that we've got. All kinds of factors enter in the complexity of a church system. That's one way that systems thinking helps us to see what's really going on in our church. It's important to understand that until we change our mental models, which are another part of learning organizations, we'll remain slaves to problem solving. And so we don't embrace the whole. We tend to rationalize, we stay busy trying to fix symptoms rather than the real problem, and we leave the real purpose of the church to others. So we allow time to accommodate conflicting viewpoints, and we realize that conflicting viewpoints are very often our mental models, what we assume, what we think is true. It's a very underrated exercise to think in systems, but it's increasingly valuable, especially as things get volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Systems thinking can help you dissolve barriers that you don't recognize are there. There's one other place where systems thinking helps specifically, and that is with the leadership interaction within the system. Systems thinking is critical for church leaders because the church is a social system. So understanding how your church works as a system will be incredibly helpful for you as a church leader. We offer lots of resources, which you'll find below, to help you with that. We've kind of flourished in that at luminexgroup.org. So, thank you for joining us today. I hope this has helped you. I'm John Messer.